writing is boring, okay? Writing takes a nap. Writing, you have to be in the zone, you have to be inspired. But once you get there, you run with it, right?
I think one of the most satisfying aspects of writing is when you strike a nerve in the audience. Like when I've been at festivals and somebody watches the film I wrote and then they come talk to me and they're like, man, my cousin went through that, or this, like they're crying. It's just like, wow, like I can't believe I wrote something that resonated that deeply with someone else. So when you do that, it's just like a great feeling because you know you're speaking for them. Because let's face it, our community is voiceless in this industry right now. So the more of you guys that are out there writing, the more voices we have.
Know your story and know your audience. And that goes for every story, every genre. So like, obviously if you're gonna write a kid's story and you're like, I wanna do this, then be relevant. What's your kid's story about? Know the lingo, right? And see, I just used a kid story, but like, if you're gonna write a story about a surgeon, well, you better start researching so you're not in the ER and you're like, hey, give me that middle thing right there so I can cut this guy open, right? Like,
The middle thing.
You better fucking know the terminology. So even if you're using it wrong to an audience, like, oh yeah, that sounds like a doctor. Oh yeah. I don't even know if that's real, but it sounds real to me, right? Like, so know the world you're writing about.
When you're cooking, most of the time it has to have salt. Same thing here. It has to have an arc, it has to have a climax, it has to have a resolution. So it's gonna have these, it's gonna say the same story, but it's gonna have these things, because the reason why I tell you this is me and David get hit up constantly. Hey man, me and my tia had lunch the other day and she told me a juicy rumor. And I think it would make a great movie. Like, dog, nobody wants to watch a 2-hour movie about you and your tia talking. But if you add that some fool ran up in there and it was holding you guys hostage, and then the truth came out, then that's a little more interesting. So that's what I'm saying. That's what it takes. You know, you're taking regular stories and then you're cooking with them and adding flavor to them.
What you're gonna give the world is this box that they're gonna watch, and that's all they're gonna know is what you give them. So the more you relate to these characters, the more you care about your characters, even the villain, the better the story is going to be, and you owe them that.
When you're writing your first draft, like my method is I want to get everything on paper first, because as a writer, once you get that first draft done, it's actually the fun part starts, because that's the editing process. That's when you're like, okay, this doesn't work, this works. Ooh, we should change this line to this line. And that's where you want to get into, but I still suffer from that because sometimes I'm like, oh man, I should have wrote this in description instead of saying it. And that's where your writing partners, when they give you notes, you won't see that, but they're really good at pointing that out.
So when you watch a movie, can this be shown? Like, can we see this person get mugged? Does he have to tell me this?
You're about to get mugged.
No, but
And the way we work, and I think you guys should practice this even when it comes to criticizing your colleagues' work, right? Don't just have a negative note. If you have a negative note, back that negative note of why you have the note, right? Don't be like,
it's an opinion.
yeah, it's an opinion.
Pops and bumps, folks.
Yeah.
Pops and bumps.
Pops and bumps, like he says it, because I don't just, we are dicks, we're boys, so we like, John, it sucks. But then we go into why I think it sucks. And I give him suggestions or layers and ideas. And it's up to him to interpretate those notes. Same thing when David gives the notes, or vice versa. You know, we always, it becomes an opinion when you don't have something to back up the note, right? But creative criticism, whether it's negative or positive, when you have something to tell them, or you have a solution, or you have some ideas for them, that's dope. It's always welcome, right? So always think about it that way.